welcome back. So, today I wanted to do another Fazbear Frights review. I finished 1:35 a.m., just the first novella, which is what it's called, within that volume. I actually finished it a week, maybe two ago, but I haven't done the video yet because I had other videos that were more pressing on my mind that I thought were more important to get to. But here we are now, and I can do this one now. So, I will say that for the premise of this one, I did find it very interesting because all the other stories, the protagonist has been a child so far, which makes sense in a lot of ways because the Freddy Fazbear Entertainment Company is kind of focused on children because it's that Chuck E. Cheese style setup kind of thing. And so, like, focusing on the toys and things and how that affects kids totally makes sense. But it was very fun to get kind of an adult perspective in this one instead. The basic premise being in this one that our main character here goes to a yard sale and finds this strange doll that she thinks will work as an alarm clock. And then she accidentally sets the wrong time on it. Or thinks she does at least, because she was supposed to go in for an afternoon shift that started at 2, so she had set her alarm for 1:35 p.m. so that she could take like a nap and wake up in time to get ready for work and go to work. And then it ends up going off at 1:35 a.m. instead, and she missed her thing and all that. I mean, she ended up being late to her shift because she got called in by her boss and stuff after being late. But yeah, so that's just kind of the basic face value story of it, and I found it a pretty interesting read overall. Scott Cawthon, especially with his co-writers, seems to be doing a great job as these stories progress, getting more and more creepy and doing well upping creep factor and stuff. I loved the description of the doll, and it felt all very eerie to me. So I enjoyed the story that way a lot. I did have a few little minor things. So the main character's job is working at a diner, and when it first talks about it, it says that her apartment has a view of the back side of the diner where she works. But then, like, the very first thing that happens in the story is that her original alarm clock before she found the doll one hadn't gone off, and so she was late for work, and he calls her up and is like, well, where are you? And she's like, I can be there in half an hour. And I was like, if you can see the back side of the diner from your house, I don't feel like it would take a half hour to get there, most likely. But I guess it could be across a few busy streets kind of a thing. But I felt like it wasn't described well enough to be like, yeah, it's going to take you a half hour to get there. But yeah. Also, our main character here had not finished high school, and she really hates her job at the diner and stuff, and she's so frustrated about her current trajectory and not feeling like she's got enough money for things, enough to function. I was kind of surprised that she wasn't trying to go for like a GED or something so that she could get a better degree and find a better job than just working in this diner. But I mean, that I guess wasn't really the focus of the story either. It wasn't like she was trying to better herself. It was just like, here's how she's functioning. Here's a thing she tries to function, and then it turns out to be a creepy evil doll. So, it was fine, if a little silly, and like, realistically, I feel like you would probably be pursuing some other things as well. And then, too, when the Ella doll first doesn't go off at the right time, it was interesting because our main character took the Ella doll with her as she's running out to get to her work shift, and she throws the Ella doll in the dumpster, and for the alarm not going off one time, that seemed like a very strong reaction to me. It built well into what happened in the rest of the story and how she feels like she's haunted by the sound of the alarm going off and things like that. But it just didn't quite make sense to me in my brain. I was like, if I was mad at this doll, I would not carry it out the door with me. I would just, like, maybe throw it on the ground in frustration, not, like, purposefully take it with me out of my apartment, take the time to throw it into the dumpster, and then go. Also, in that scene, then, like, her boss comes out, like, after she's throwing the Ella doll in the dumpster, and he's like, what are you doing at the dumpsters? And so, if it was, again, that fast of a journey, why would it take her a half hour to get there in the other scene? And so, I felt like some of that was not established well. But yeah. And we also got some backstory for an old boyfriend that the main character had, who had ended up, like, leaving her when she wanted to get married. I think he might have been abusive. I don't entirely remember those details of the story, but all the addition of talking about him felt really irrelevant to the rest of the story. If he'd come back in some format, like he gave her the doll as some sort of, like, forgive me thing, then maybe it would have made sense, but just the way it was established, I didn't understand why he was mentioned in the story at all, other than to make it seem like, oh no, our main character had such a horrible life, because she was also, like, a foster child and stuff, and so his relationship with her had been part of how she got out of that when she was 18 and was coping with things, and so yeah. There were just aspects that I was confused by. I did like the haunting itself, that there's the predictability that at 1:35 a.m. every day she has to deal with all these creepy sensations and feeling like she is being haunted by this doll, sometimes seeing the doll, a lot of the time just hearing creepy noises, all that kind of thing, and seeing all the different ways she tries to cope with it, trying to sleep in different rooms, trying to start working the night shift so that she's awake during it and can't be haunted by it, but that doesn't work. All of that was pretty great. I really enjoyed that. But to get into a bit more spoilery stuff, at the very end, when she's running away from the doll on the last night that we get of it, she's just running and running and running, driving around town, trying to find a place to hide from the doll, which seems fairly reasonable when you've been haunted by this thing. But she ends up going into, like, an air vent in a building that's under construction, and she just goes in and she tries to squeeze herself tighter and tighter into the air vent, and finally when she's, like, stuck in the air vent, she's like, now I'm safe. And when you're being haunted by a doll that seems to be able to follow you anywhere, I just didn't understand the logic of how she felt like, oh, this is the safe space where I'm stuck and I can't move, she can't find me here. I didn't understand that. But, I mean, she's probably going kind of crazy from being haunted, so maybe that's all that was trying to imply. I don't know. It was a good ending, even if the logic didn't quite make sense, because it's like it drove her to do this thing, and yikes. But yeah, so it was a fun one. I think probably still not quite a favorite. Fetch was still really good, and yeah, it's gonna take some stuff to top it, but I've heard a little bit of what Room for One More is about, because I watched MatPat's video about this Fazbear Frights book, and I'm excited for that one. That one I think might be one of my favorites, because it sounds like it'll be very, very creepy. It'll have, like, a security guard doing the job at either sister location or one of those similar franchises, and I'm super excited. It'll be good. So yeah, but that's all I've got for now. That's my thoughts on the novella 1:35 a.m. Let me know if you've read this one, what your thoughts were. I'd be happy to talk more about anything Freddy Fazbear's with you too. But yeah, that's all I've got for now. I'll link other novellas that I've reviewed down below, and I'll keep reviewing the series as we go along too. And I hope you guys are enjoying, and this is the Umlau Harper signing out.